In the early 1990s, American farmers began planting new types of crops whose seeds had been genetically modified using the latest biotechnological processes. By the end of the decade, some of these so-called GM foods were appearing on the shelves of British supermarkets. Controversy ensued. Following recent food scares over mad cow disease and salmonella, GM foods were the subject of fierce debate. Were they safe to eat? What impact would they have on the environment? Were they really needed? Sales of GM foods plummeted. The British government decided to take a softly approach to GM. They called for a voluntary moratorium on commercial use, but approved large-scale experimental plantings of GM crops, the farm-scale evaluations. In 2002, a new media storm blew up over these trials.
My friend noticed in the newspaper that one of the 4 GM crop trials in the whole country was growing just down the road from us. And none of us knew about it. There was no sort of local notification, or we hadn't seen it, so we started doing some homework. And the more we found out about it, the less comfortable we were. So we arranged a public meeting.
Well, this is an extraordinarily contentious issue. There's no doubt about that. There are people who are passionate about it at both ends, who've made up their minds and frankly are not listening very much to the arguments. There are the scientists who work for the biotechnology industry. They are very keen on it, and there are the people at the other end who think that GM is next to the devil, that if you eat GM food, it'll cause death and destruction and the plague, of which there is, frankly, no evidence.
In the face of growing opposition to the farm-scale evaluations, the government decided to stage a thorough investigation into the whole GM issue.
I think they panicked when they realised that everything was going against them as on the GM issue, that they hadn't consulted. That's one of the things that people were most upset about, and that people felt that their rights were being ridden roughshod over. They didn't have a say in what was going on.
I don't think they fully realised what they were letting themselves in for. And in fact, very quickly, we got feedback, informal feedback, that in the Cabinet Committee responsible, they were appalled by this idea that it was now going to be opened up to public discussion.
First of all, the government commissioned a study into the economic impact of GM food.
This was undertaken by civil servants in Number 10. It was not a pro-GM report. It said what everyone knew, that the economics of this, well, there weren't any economics because people didn't want it. If they weren't going to buy it, there was no market. So it concluded that there would be no economic benefit to Britain in the foreseeable future in going down this route. Now, that's not what the Prime Minister or Margaret Beckett or officials wanted to hear.
The 2 most widely publicised government initiatives were the Science Review Panel and GM Nation, a large-scale public consultation exercise.